All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lily. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about STEM education. I'm first going to walk you guys through my journey through STEM. I'm going to talk a little bit about national competitiveness and STEM education, and then how I'm helping to create pathways in STEM through my nonprofit. So, to start off with my background, I was born in Indiana. My mother, for most of her career, has worked in affordable housing. And my father was a second generation coal miner turned railroad engineer. And because of his job, I moved around a lot as a kid, but we ended up settling down in Memphis, Tennessee, and that's what I consider to be my hometown. I also start with my parents on here because I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about the different teachers and mentors and counselors that help get me where I am today. But none of that would have been possible without my parents' endless support for my crazy and not so crazy endeavors, including through the world of pageantry. I also have a younger brother and a twin sister. My twin sister is currently an explosives and ordnance technician for the United States Army. Growing up with her, we competed constantly against each other, and that really helped us become the people we are today. And then sharing that journey with her, we were both first generation college students studying STEM majors, hers in forensic science and me in computer science. And being able to share that with her and have someone else that was going through that was super helpful. But going back to my educational background, I grew up in a lot of places, mainly in Memphis, Tennessee. I went to Memphis City Public Schools, which kind of lacked a lot of classes and resources in science and math education. At my high school, 95% of students did not meet grade level proficiency for math. We didn't have physics offered as a class at the school, so I didn't have a lot of experience in that. I also didn't know a lot of scientists and engineers in my community. As close as I could get to that was my dad, who worked as a technician, and people like him, and maybe doctors and nurse practitioners that I met, going to the doctor's office. But other than that, and my science teachers, I just didn't know a lot of science and engineers. So I focused on what I did like and what I was good at, which was arts and communication. I was super into theater, specifically technical theater and lighting design. And through that, I learned some engineering concepts, some CAD, some technology concepts doing that. I also was a student journalist. And through my school's newspaper, I learned how to code websites. I learned some data science practices, and I had mentors in journalism that encouraged me to pursue some of those STEM aspects to make me more marketable as a journalist, because that's what I wanted to do at the time. With tons of help from my guidance counselors that had a lot of specific programs for first gen college students, I received a full scholarship to attend American University here in DC. I first went as a journalism major. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. And I decided to minor in computer science because of that marketability thing. In my very first semester, I hated my journalism classes. I said, God, get me out of here. I can't do this. But my first semester, I also took my first computer science class. I'd never taken a coding class before. I did a little bit of it with the school paper, just like doing Google resources. But once I took that first class, I was in love. And I ended up being pretty good at it. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't gone through that path with the arts and hadn't had those mentors that encouraged me to pursue these STEM concepts. So after I graduated from AU, I went on to pursue a Master of Science in Lighting at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I continued on with a PhD program there. And then something crazy happened. I won the Miss United States competition, which I never thought would happen. Of course, everyone says that when they win, but I got to spend a whole year traveling the country to promote science and arts education. I went to every corner of the United States, from very rural areas like Lordsburg, New Mexico, big cities like Los Angeles. I talked to students of all backgrounds, rural, urban, low income, middle class, high income, north, south, east, west. And during all of those experiences, I got to really delve in deep into my pedagogy for STEM education. I believe that every child deserves a chance at a STEM education, regardless of their background. Everyone deserves science and technology education, even if they don't want to become a scientist and engineer. All career paths nowadays need it still. And I feel like we're really failing some of our most disadvantaged students when it comes to having STEM education opportunities for them. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, during my year as Miss United States, I was invited by NASA to view the Crew 7 launch at Kennedy Space Center. And that kind of renewed my interest in NASA. When I was at AU, I interned with Department of Homeland Security and NASA Space Grant. So I was already like a space geek. But after that journey with Miss United States, I ended up taking a research assistantship at NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies. I finally went back to the lab to pursue my PhD. I passed my candidacy exam last month, so excited about that. But I never stopped promoting science and technology education for disadvantaged youth. I'm still doing that through my nonprofit, through my university, and through NASA. So let's frame this problem a little bit before we continue on. So I think we're all familiar with this concept. STEM is a huge part of the US economy. STEM occupations are some of the fastest growing job sectors in the US compared to the average. But we have a major shortage of skilled workers in STEM. That's not just college educated STEM professionals, that includes technicians too, which is still part of STEM. And then at the education level, are we preparing students to meet this skill gap? Somewhat. So the US tends to be below average in math worldwide for math proficiency. We actually do okay in science on average, but that is less true for disadvantaged schools. Low-income schools and rural schools tend to have higher disparities with math and science proficiencies. Students in these schools also have less access to STEM resources, classes, and experiences. And students from higher income schools are twice as likely to earn a STEM degree compared to low-income students. And I can speak about this personally. When I went to college, and switched my major to computer science after that happened, I felt like I was so behind my peers. I'd come from a public school district, from a Title I school that didn't have high standards in math and science. I'd never taken physics before. And I sat in these math and science classes and just looked around and said, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. All of these people know so much more than me and have such stronger backgrounds in this. But because of those amazing teachers and mentors and advisors and professors that pushed me and helped me and encouraged me, I was able to do it. And a lot of people are able to do it that way. It's not ideal though. If we really want to look to the United States as a beacon for STEM, as a beacon for the STEM workforce, we have to, at the ground level, raise STEM proficiency from kindergarten through 12th grade and beyond. All we're doing when we're underserving our students is underserving the future of our nation and ourselves. So that brings me to some ways that we can create pathways in STEM. So a couple of years ago, before I was even Miss United States, some of my friends and I founded a nonprofit called Art Technically that promotes arts and science education for disadvantaged youth. But this is what we call in the business a Band-Aid solution. It's not wide-scale infrastructure change, which is what we really need if we want to raise our students up and our workforce up in modern-day STEM. But we do what we can at the ground level. And this is also the way that I got involved in STEM was through these mentorship and after-school programs, and how many of the members of Art Technically also did. So our pedagogy is based on that, based on our experiences, both as disadvantaged students coming into STEM degrees and through working with students. So our first component of Art Technically is called See Yourself. We really want students, especially at a younger age, to be able to see themselves as scientists and engineers. Our elementary school students, we have a very fun workshop called I Am a Scientist, where we take Polaroid cameras, we take a picture of the student, which is really helpful at rural schools where sometimes the printer and photo technology is not so great. And they take those Polaroid photos and they take a cutout of a scientist's outfit, a lab coat, gloves, and boots, and they assemble it so that they are the scientists. And then they get to decorate it with all sorts of science and technology stickers, and just be able to see themselves as scientists. We also do a lot of programs where diverse speakers from science and engineering backgrounds come into schools and give talks. We actually did one yesterday here at the AI Expo for local high schoolers. Our second component is called Explore Possibilities. If you had told me, even when I was in high school and doing lighting design and theater, that being a lighting scientist was a thing, I would have been like, that's crazy. There are tons of jobs out there in the STEM field. They're not just software developers and electrical engineers and like very traditional STEM careers you would think of. you can really go in depth into things and find something you're very passionate about and incorporate STEM into that, or it might even be inherently STEM. So this component is all about promoting different ways that you can be a scientist or an engineer. This is through book and toy donations. So for toy donations, one of our programs is called Science Bears. You can see these fun little scientist bears on the screen. We make the costumes for them and we donate them to children in need. We also take photos of them doing their scientist job. That photo gets put in the pocket of the bear that's donated, but we also use the photos to promote like these fun careers to other students too. This botanist bear on the side, that's actually taken in my lab where I currently work as a PhD student. And then we have paleontologist bear over there too. We also do a book donation program for Title I elementary and middle schools. And this includes diverse STEM and STEAM books, along with activities that get given to the librarian to do as they may. Sometimes for the most part, they put them in the library. Sometimes they give them out as classroom sets. The activities they can rent out to teachers. So just different ways that students can explore all the different areas of STEM. The other component we have is Learn Core Concepts. So we do a lot of STEM workshops for K through 12. We also have free and open source lesson plans for teachers to implement those workshops in their classrooms that align with their state's science and math standards. One of the workshops we do is called Love Letters. It's this bottom one. It's a workshop where students learn to creatively code through an art-based coding platform. Students are able to create Valentine's Day cards by writing code. And then a super fun component of that is we actually print out the Valentine's Day cards. And for the last 5 years, we've donated them to Meals on Wheels programs across the country. So it's also a cool service project that the students get to participate in. We also do pretty standard STEM workshops. The top one is from Eclipse workshops last month. We taught about 1,200 students about Earth and space science through the Eclipse programming. And then we have Jitterbugs over there, which is just an electronics workshops for elementary schoolers. And we also do teacher training along with that. And their fourth and final component, so they've explored possibilities, they've seen themselves as scientists, they've learned some core concepts, especially at the younger age. We also do workshops that train in depth. And that's usually for middle and high schoolers or above. In these workshops, students train in depth on a specific STEM topic. So they're still learning some of the core components, the core basis, but they're picking a topic and they're really going in depth and seeing what it might be like to work in that field. My favorite one, because it's based on my background, is called astrobotany. Students learn about growing plants in space and space foods. That's my favorite to teach. And last year I taught it at a rural elementary school in Tennessee. And at the culmination of that, students got to video chat with astronauts on the International Space Station through the NASA Downlink program. So just a really awesome opportunity that's happening at schools that a lot of times don't get these types of opportunities. My Downlink school is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. There's not really much for miles. It's a school of 500 students though, and they bus them all in together. And I always get told when I go to schools like this, like, we never have anyone want to come out here. So I just want to spotlight the rural education component of this. And then here at the AI Expo yesterday, I mentioned this earlier, we invited local DC public high school students to come in and learn about Industry 4.0 technologies and AI. They sat through a workshop on that. They also sat through a panel and got to ask questions of that panel full of NASA scientists and educators about AI, Industry 4.0, their careers in education. And the last component, how can you help if you're interested in promoting STEM education, getting involved in your communities? Well, if we're in your community, Art technically is, you can give us an email and we can get you connected with your local schools. Even if we're not in your community, we work along the East Coast. We have a whole network of nonprofits we work with. We can find you one that fits your field and fits your lifestyle and what you want to do. And then 2 shout outs to some of my favorite other nonprofits, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I'm a big sister. That's my little sister Asaya and I at an observatory. Big Brothers, Big Sisters is the largest and oldest mentoring organization in the United States. If you're interested in that, just Google your city name and Big Brothers, Big Sisters. You probably have one near you. And especially for our men in the audience, we have a major shortage of big brothers. So I would encourage you to do that. If you're looking for something a little more low commitment, I might point you to Pre-Scientist or Letters to a Pre-Scientist. And this program, if you're a scientist or engineer or work in STEM somehow, you can become a pen pal to a disadvantaged middle schooler. You only have to write 4 letters a year, and they write you 4 letters back and forth, about your job, about STEM, about any questions they have. And it's a super fun and cool experience that, again, is pretty low commitment. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming and listening to my talk. I hope that you'll reach out to me via email. And if you see me around at the expo, please stop by and say hi. Yeah.